The killing of a female humpback whale in Bequia has revived the discussion about whether the island, long famed for its seafaring culture, should abandon its 150-year-old whaling tradition.
I am a conservationist, so from my personal perspective and also from the perspective of the fund, I'm saddened by the killing of the female humpback whale in Bequia.
This is tradition. We're carrying on the legacy. You see who they have? There's a young generation who's taking over this generation. I got two youth and I want to write a piece of paper and tell them that's what we look like and it tastes like.
The usually sleepy northern Grenadine island, known as the place even among Vincentians to relax and unwind, came alive on March 16, 2017, as whalers began processing the 50-foot female humpback whale caught one day earlier. Hundreds of persons traveled to Semple Key off Bequia's southern coast, where the whale processing facilities are located. Bequians, regardless of where they stand on the island's whaling tradition, are by and large interested in the whaling-related activities on the island. They include 15-year-old Chantal Batiste, who took the day off from school just to watch.
This is the first time I'm coming here to see a big whale. I never see a big whale and I never see a whale in my life. I am so surprised to see a whale and I'm so happy. I do not eat whale, but still I'm happy for the people who eat whale.
Batiste does not eat whale, not because of any overarching philosophy.
I don't like the taste or nothing. It's just freshy.
Whaling was introduced in Bequia in 1875, and the International Whaling Commission allows Bequians to kill 4 humpback whales every year as part of their Aboriginal sustenance culture. But whalers sometimes go for years without a single catch. Over the last decade or so, they have killed an average of 1 whale every 2 years. Among those who support whaling in Bequia is Orwell Rage of Paget Farm, a fishing community in the south of the island.
I think whaling it's good for our culture, our people, our heritage, the country, because it's a tradition started from years back. We cannot kill our tradition because of someone else, because it's food for everyone in the country, and it's like everybody glad when you catch a whale, it made the country alive. Everybody come together, everybody get a piece of whale. And, it make everybody feel happy and nice.
Among the many prominent anti-whaling voices in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is Louise Mitchell, a Kingston-based attorney and conservationist who is originally from Bequia. She argues that whaling was introduced to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and is therefore not Aboriginal. Ms. Mitchell also posits that whaling is not important to survival on the island.
So on the definition, it fails. In terms of the economic justifications, it is not needed for subsistence needs. So on that basis, we do not need to be killing whales. And I think humpback whales are some of the largest mammals in the world, and they're absolutely magnificent creatures. And I think we should be enjoying the fact that they choose to come to our warm waters. The mothers come here this time of year basically to look after their calves. So there's a great chance, because it was a mother that was killed, great chance she had a calf with her who would now be wandering around lost without a mother, because as you know, whales breastfeed like women do.
But whether whaling meets the Aboriginal or sustenance criteria, many Bequians consider it an important part of the island's culture. How would you respond to the argument that whaling has been done in Bequia since 1875 and is therefore an important part of the culture of the island?
I believe that it was an important part of the culture. I don't think it is currently an important part of the culture. I do think it is something that we can't dispense with. I think it should be an honored part of our history. And I'm a trustee of the Bequia Heritage Foundation, which was responsible for building a museum in Bequia, which pays tribute to the whaling history of Bequia. And that is an evolving museum. If you go there today, you will learn all about the boat building and whaling history of Bequia. We actually intend to expand the museum, and we're going to be placing the the most recently retired whaleboat rescue is going to go there as well. That was the whaleboat of Orson Oliver. So I think it was an important part of our history. And in the days when we didn't have electricity, whale meat was something that could be corned and preserved for a long time. It was absolutely critical at one point in our development. In this day and age, we no longer need it. And I think we should shift away from it. And I think when a whale was caught 20 years ago, it was the center of cultural life. The whole of Bequia went over to Pitty Nevis. There was a large space and families socialized together and ate together for, it was like sitting and breaking bread together for a whole day. Well, they no longer have access to Pitty Nevis because the owners of Pitty Nevis said that they no longer wanted that activity to happen there. So it now happens on a tiny little rock that's very difficult to access and cannot hold a lot of people. So it's just a few dozen people that would go over to that rock and stand there while the whale is cut up. But it's not a place that you can cook and socialize for very long.
Ms. Mitchell advocates whale watching as an alternative, but Mr. Ragge says that he does not think there is a future for whale watching in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Because sometimes you will spot a whale, and when you do look at it, it's a distance ahead. And whale watching is more for like sperm whale, not humpback whale that feed around here.
Mr. Ragge is not a passive supporter of whaling. He also consumes whale meat.
The taste is hard to describe because it's a special taste.
You like it?
But I don't still like it. I say I love it. I enjoy it.
Mr. Ragge had taken the day off from work to watch as the whale was being processed and to secure his own piece of the catch.
I got to take a day off because this is beyond a festival.
So you just come here and sit down and watch?
Yeah. Till later we have a little piece.
The humpback whale was killed by Kingsley Stowe, who learned the whaling skill from the late Othniel Oliver.
I've been whaling about 30-something years, and now turning 60.
60?
Yeah.
How many whales have you killed?
Well, quite a many, about 12. So when I started, I whaled with the Oliver for a few years, and then on my own now, I actually kept 2 on this new boat I have. But I whaled with these other guys before, and I catch about 8, 9 with them.
Mr. Stowe says that outfitting a whaling boat is very expensive.
It takes you a few $1,000 as well because you have to get equipment and all these rope and whatever, and then get the boat, put it the way you want it, get the sail. So it's very expensive. It's over $100,000 to look at it. If all can go well with that whale, we'll make up to $45,000.
On the day of the catch, 7 persons went out to whale, and a support boat had a further 7. Assuming that the whale in fact generates $45,000 and the money is shared equally, each of the 14 persons can only expect to collect about $3,200.
If you get the 4 whale in the quota, we expect to get a good whales upon it. But if you get 1, and you make about 45, they're going to share between all the men.
Ms. Mitchell argues that whale watching is a better alternative.
It is a real option, absolutely, because persons would pay, at least $50 US and more to go out on a boat for a few hours to go and see whales and dolphins. And certainly on the leeward coast of St. Vincent, it's calm and it's a very viable activity because if you just go off about 2-3 miles, you'll always see at least dolphins. So it's an absolutely viable alternative that should be explored.
And herein lies the challenge in convincing the whalers that whale watching is a more economical alternative. No one has shown any proof that whale watching will generate economic benefit.
I don't understand what some people are saying because if you did a few minutes from now, all gone. So I don't see no interest in whale watching because they don't bring a benefit. And nobody's not going to do whale watching around here. Because if we don't see whale here every day. And it's just now and again, by next week you meet you see more.
they may be all gone. So that one walk very well.
Proponents of whaling in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have argued that one whale every few years can hardly have an impact on the population internationally. Further, they have noted that very little of a whale caught in Bequia is wasted. Mr. Stowe explains how a whale carcass is used.
What this is prepping there, this is a part of the fat made oil. Use it to make the oil, to get the oil from. And the meat, we cook that, the blubber, the black one on the back, they call it blubber. That is we use to cook the whale, the meat. So you get the oil from it. You also get a strip from it. And you can, well, they got use everything from it. For the bone, like the backbone, people use it to make stools. And the ribs, you decorate for them whoever wants the job. If you notice, you will see some set up over some business place. They buy them.
Tourism is the mainstay of the larger Vincentian economy, as is the case in Bequia. And Ms. Mitchell believes that whaling is not good for the tourism industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, especially when it has just commissioned its first international airport.
We're trying to market ourselves as a tourism destination, especially now that we have an international airport. We're inviting people to come from all over the world. And when we put out brochures about what you have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have pictures of turtles and pictures of dolphins. We do not market the fact that we kill whales, and we would not be able to market that because people wouldn't come if they knew we did that. So you have to look at conservation not just from the point of view that it may be morally right, but economically as well, what makes sense. Because there's so much competition for tourism. With Cuba opening up, there's so many places for people to go. Why choose to come here? I say one of the reasons to come here is because of our amazing biodiversity. But if we don't look after the amazing species that we have in our waters, what can we say to people to come here and just sit on another white sand beach? There should be more to tourism than that. In the old days, when whaling was done by traditional methods, you could see how some people would have been impressed by the nostalgia of this all and the way in which it was, the contact that these whalermen had with nature, the fact that they had to be out there for hours trying to kill a whale, and it was something that you could say, the men were so brave, they had to be there for so long. Well, in this day and age, what happens is that when a whale is struck and there's any difficulty, 5 speedboats will come and help finish off the kill within a few minutes. So it's not the old seafaring tales that happened around whaling. In this day and age, it's a much faster, quicker thing, which is possibly much better for the whale in terms of you don't have the continued suffering. But it's not just a case of 2 whaling boats on the sail going out there to kill a whale.
Ms. Mitchell also believes that as the older whalers retire, then interest in whaling will wane. However, Mr. Stowe has no plans of hanging up his harpoon.
Well, I ain't going to, I expect until all the lads and no more. Because I ain't seen no reason to stop.
And these younger people that showing interest in whaling?
Well, I have one of my son involved, and some other young guys there who involved. So they're going to contribute.
Among the crew who killed the whale were 3 young men in their late 20s and early 30s. Their story about the realities of whaling differs from that presented by Ms. Mitchell.
It was very dangerous yesterday. The last case to diver, man. That's the butcher guy there. Really and truly. Everybody cut away the cases. It's cement in the water with no bottom. About 13 miles. 2 diver, man. There was only and hill divers there. I don't know what I have.
So what exactly is your job on the boat?
Well, I went there.
We know longer. We know everything about the boat.
When you strike the whale, you have a grass rope. You have to keep wetting it because by the speed, it can catch a fire. So you have to keep dumping water.
Yeah, water in the top.
You have to keep dumping. But after that, when everything done, to deep water diver, aka.
Right,
So you go down in the water and do what?
We go down in the water.
We put her in the buoys and
with the buoy to float it.
And swap them out for water again.
And swap the whale for water again. To tow it. And everything come up safe and sound.
The young men who have children of their own are thankful that they can catch and eat whales. They swear by what they say are the curative properties of the marine mammal.
For the young generation, when they have the little cold and they can't go to the hospital, they just get some whale and they clear some lime and salt. And that's the best thing for the youth and bring.
The young men also argue that as citizens of a free and independent nation, they should not be constrained by the dictates of outsiders.
They say we country. We supposed to have free rights and speech for say and do what we country. We want to dictatorship and nobody from outside to tell me what to do with food from master got put money on. The Bible says bless and eat, right? Okay, so bless it. See the name? See this? You see this? That's a bad for we used to say because I'm a true nose. And I go take a piece of shine it up now and thing. Whaling and East Regatta, we want to outsiders come in a country, we system here. They say we tradition, we live and we enjoying it, and we can't go to another man's country and tell them what to do. So we want nobody to come to the country and tell them what to do.
Freedom for whale and
want freedom for East Regatta.
So we want to burn them so we're fighting for.
All I ask you is, where was I born? Am I Vincentian? This is my view. The whalers in Bequia, most of them are my family. We come from the same genetic pool.
Ms. Mitchell further notes that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a part of the international community.
And they are international standards. For example, the international community says that orcas should not be killed, and we have signed on to that. So eventually, if not right away, the government will move towards honoring its international obligations. The reason why we're allowed to kill 4 humpback whales a year in Bequia is because the International Whaling Commission says we can do so.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines' whaling quota is up for review at the International Whaling Commission's meeting in 2018. It is left to be seen if the quota would be renewed and what would be the reaction of the nation's whalers if it is not.